for that. Marvin Gaye here on KFAI. We also heard some D'Angelo and some Wilco in that set. I am making a mixtape for American Scarecrows today here on Desert Islands. If you're just tuning in, this is KFAI. Fresh Air Community Radio, 90.3 FM in Minneapolis and worldwide at kfai.org. And I think this is working. Seth, can you hear me? Are you with me?
Yeah, I can hear you. How's it going?
Perfect. Okay, so I have Seth with me from American Scarecrows, and we are doing a vid chat as well. So if you want to follow along at home, thank you so much for doing this. This is kind of like one of those instances where like things just kind of work out. Like I met y'all at the work in the turf club, and then it just kind of became. It's just like these seem like a nice group of fellas, and the record's really good.
That's nice.
So thanks. I'm really excited to have you on. Thanks for being here. And
my
also,
pleasure.
Randy Newman. I am so glad that I picked the right song because I feel like Randy Newman as a songwriter, like, you know how like monumental bands sometimes feel like a holy book from a faith that you didn't grow up in, where it's 100%. Just like, I definitely want to respect this, but I don't. Which are the metaphors and which are the, will I know? Is it serialized? Do I need to come in, you know, at a certain time to appreciate? Because like, also, he's another songwriter, like there's eras of Neil Young and Dylan I haven't even caught up on. Like there's so much stuff where it's just like, and Randy Newman is this monumental songwriter that I feel like I haven't had a chance to like officially like take a deep dive into.
Totally. It can be a little bit of an intimidating discography for sure. I mean, my best advice there is just to jump in somewhere. I mean, I really like, I'm a little more prone to the early 70s stuff, but that album Sail Away is gorgeous. And I loved that you picked Dayton, Ohio, 1903, because it might be my favorite song, but this is fun. So the version that you played is actually an alternative version on the deluxe, where it's a full band orchestration. And on the original print of the record, it's just a solo version of just Randy and the piano, and which I think lends itself a little better to the song production wise. But I love the alternative take too. So
I got to check that out. So we're going to talk about your new record and the release show coming up. We're also going to hear a track from your new record, but let's keep going with the mixtape here. I'm making a mixtape for American Scarecrows. I'm talking with Seth right now. If you want to follow us along at home, we are on YouTube and Facebook as well. And if you want to do the two together, please don't do so while you're driving. The video gets archived. So let's keep going. Here's some Stevie Wonder here on KFAI. Ooh, yeah, that's so. I could only find the bonus track version, which is kind of like annoying. Like a lot of the old like classics. For some reason, like you can only find deluxe versions now. Like you have to have like a physical copy to get like original pressings these days. It's like wild.
Which is like a little annoying because sometimes I want to just listen to what the original release was and let it just play through, you know, especially if you're listening on your phone or something where, and then like kind of deciphering where the bonus tracks start. And like, it's fun to listen to that stuff, but I want to be able to listen to that intentionally.
Not as like the original source material.
Yes.
Because some of the stuff like actually fits perfectly.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, I hear what you were saying though about, I mean, some artists like Neil Young, I mean, there are just swaths of albums that I haven't listened to. But I mean, then you jump in and I mean, it's kind of fun because then you always like there's always a new Neil Young record to listen to.
That is true. And like also it's like I guess I only brought that up because like some of my favorite artists, and I'm not trying to sound like one of those fans, like only get interesting a couple albums in, if you know what I mean. Like classic
absolutely.
rock, Beatles. Oh, sorry.
Oh,
The Beatles definitely.
yeah.
Sorry, it must be but like sorry, I actually do enjoy the Beatles. I just also enjoy low-key like dragging them on the internet just because it's just
Yeah,
like
sure.
what at this point I don't think it's like I don't think it's dragging. I think for me the Beatles are an excellent like meat and potatoes dish.
Yep.
You know, they're like one of those like if I'm gonna mix metaphors and go into the culinary realm, like this is like a really classic like combination like that. And
Yes.
it's not that like it's just like who doesn't like that, you know, like especially when
Totally.
it's done well. But like sometimes there's stuff like I want to graze on all day, like
Yep.
jazz, you know, and then
Yes.
there or like vaporwave or whatever. You just want to vibe on something and not really pay attention to it, but just kind of have it with you. And then there are other
Totally.
times where it's just like I just want a totally different texture, you know, like or maybe
Yes.
I want something meatier, you know, like
Yep.
than provided. So it's not like really knocking the Beatles as much as like they have become like this standard. I feel like
Yes.
where like now that music is available from every era all at once,
Right.
and the context of the journey is a little bit removed.
Yeah.
Um, I I don't think I see many criticisms of the Beatles like where it's like, oh, they suck. I think it's as much as like new generations are kind of like taking that era. There's no way they could take it in context because they weren't there.
Right. And I mean, neither were we.
Right.
Neither were we. But I think that. But I mean, you can trace things back. You know,
Yes. It's
I mean,
fun.
where did the Beatles come from, or like, you
Right.
know, like Beach Boys, and it's like, oh, this was all like Chuck Berry, you know, like
Yes.
the early Beach Boys stuff, and then you can kind of go down those rabbit holes with like the 40s and the 50s, and I mean, yeah, I mean that
It
old
never
like
ends.
the older like those first few Beatles records, which I really enjoy listening to, but I totally
Right.
understand people that don't, because like they were, you know, it was kind of like I don't know, it was bubblegum and they were like a glorified cover band, kind of like at the start.
Yeah.
But
I don't think they had their voice yet, you
no,
know?
totally. But they were
And
also like in their like late teens, early 20s, and I mean, I
yeah,
don't know, dude. I'm 34 and I
I'm
don't
still
even know that I'm there. So
yeah, yeah. It's like it's one of those things where like I think it's I think at this point it's like I context does shape content, but like
mm,
I do think those early records were like you were seeing an artist find themselves in real time. Like they were
yeah,
like imitating the records that they loved. And I guess that's why I brought up the Randy Newman thing, because like there are also artists that like hit their stride over time and just became formidable. But then there's also artists that kind of like a Sun Ra, where it's like they're
sure.
deliberately taking like a left turn, and it's just like yeah, not
Yep.
all of the discography is going to be for everybody.
Right.
Um,
Or like
and it's like
you even think of someone like Tom Waits, where it's like like
yeah,
the early Tom Waits stuff. It's like his voice was clean.
yeah,
He was definitely going down like a certain path, like with the what's the
oh yeah,
song that the Eagles did? Is that the old 55 or whatever? You like
yeah,
you listen to that and it's like okay, yeah, no, like this is fine, but it's not. But it's not my Tom Waits. Like it wasn't until like
right.
Nighthawks in the Diner where he's like smoking a few more cigarettes. His voice is getting a little more gravelly.
Oh
He's getting a
yeah,
little more
that
jazzy and like that's where I'm like, okay, this is he really found himself here.
that's Nighthawks at the Diner is my favorite Tom Waits
Same,
record because I
absolutely
love
same.
the idea of like it's like it's a like it was a live album, but it's just like
Kind
they brought
of,
the people in the studio, like they
yeah.
were just
It's
recording in the studio, and
but
it's
which
like
is so like like leave it up to Tom Waits to do that. It's like we can't even really pinpoint down if this is a live album or
yeah,
a studio album because like at the same time, it's not necessarily like a natural audience. It was like
no,
all of their like buddies.
yeah,
And like they
yeah,
wanted it to, as far as I know, as far as like my reading is
right,
correct, like
yeah,
them bringing it in and like they wanted it to sound loungy, and it
yeah,
does. I mean, if you
it
didn't know
really,
that, you would never think otherwise. But then like even with the banter in between and that being um kind of thought out beforehand and like
right.
improvised, I don't know. I just yeah, I really dig it.
I think there's a healthy amount of improv in there, but knowing Tom Waits, I think it's hard to say, because like when you see his career unfurl, like the dude is put on a few off-Broadway productions.
Totally.
It wouldn't surprise me if like the joke for him was to like, you're never gonna be able to tell what's real,
right,
and what was made up, and what was, like what was intentional, what was a skit, what was not a skit.
Yep, and I'm here for it.
I like it better for that.
Yeah,
like it's,
totally.
And because I don't know if he was just doing this because he's in Tom Waits' own little world, or it was like a deliberate commentary on like the live albums the 70s bands were putting out at the time, which were just video albums with like canned.
Yes.
I don't know if that even factored in, or if this is just like a romanticized fantasy I'm making up.
No, but I mean, I don't know. Like, I think art is always responding to art. So, I mean, like, whether or not it was maybe a conscious decision on his part, there was some of that maybe banging around in the unconscious. Like, I'm going to go so far the other way,
Right.
Yeah.
And cool. I think at the end of the day, they probably just thought it was fun.
Yeah, right. Because they weren't
really thinking that much. Like, it's like a lot of this reminds me of like English class, where it's just like, well, wait a minute, were these metaphors intended as such, or are you just, like, this art is, giving you a mirror to peer into, and like you are making that, connection. Like that was a connection for you. And if it works, that's good, because like it goes back to that like Joseph Campbell thing, where it's just like, well, that just becomes your narrative. Like it doesn't have to
exactly.
be like, but yeah, I don't know, and I don't think it would make me like the album any less.
No, sure. Sometimes though, I mean, sometimes I think that like I have started in like the last few years, I've started not digging into all of the facts about albums, because like I went through like a little bit of a rabbit hole for a few years where it's like, now this is kind of killing the magic for me.
It is.
Where like sometimes I like knowing people's personal stories about their songs, but then like sometimes like, but I'm also on my own journey with these songs, and so like what does it mean to me inside of my own world? Like that matters to me. So
I'm a big believer in that Lester Bangs thing, like music chooses you.
Oh, totally.
Because otherwise, like I have a rule of 3 when it comes to media. Like if 3 people randomly suggest it, I'm going to check it out. Because otherwise, like, where do you find the time? Right. And then that goes back into like, the woo-woo stuff that I'm into, where it's just like, oh, it's a synchronicity. I gotta check out this album. Like we were hanging out at the coffee shop and they brought like, that's the kind of stuff where it's like, oh, I was meant to check this album out.
Well, I was just talking about this with the band the other day, that like I'm a firm believer in, it's like, you don't, to a certain point, like you don't even decide what you like. If it was up to me, I would love everything, because then every single musical experience would just be this joyous occasion. And if I know in my heart of hearts, if I'm being honest, I understand it's like, okay, this is not connecting with me. Maybe there's a part that I just don't have that is connecting with other people, and that's great. But like once I've started like kind of approaching music like that, I don't know, it just kind of it's still just as magical and awesome as always, but like really like submitting myself to it, like picking like Meatloaf. Like I don't love that album. Ironically, I legitimately love that album, and a part of that is like, you have to embrace the cheese, because it is cheesy, but I love that. Like it brings me joy.
It is cheesy, but also like that's what he was going for.
Oh yeah, like Jim Steinman, that's his thing. Like he's unabashedly shameless about his like, we're going to do a rock opera about undying love in the most grandiose sense that we can at the time.
Yeah, it's like it is supposed to be. Well, like that was also like coming from, like there was no roadmap for Elvis.
Right.
Like when something gets like that famous, like after that, like eventually artists are going to start looking around and be like, we're going to give them what they want. We're going to give them what they want. More violins. We're going to get doors.
Totally.
And that was like the big, more is more time, like it's just like, and and like I mean, the dude named himself Meatloaf. Like
I know.
he's where like he's just like, no, like I know what I'm, like this is I didn't name myself T-Bone, New York Strip, Filet Mignon. I named
Yes,
myself Meatloaf.
Meatloaf. I love one of my dear friends got to co-write with Meatloaf, but before he
No
passed,
way.
maybe like
No.
8 years ago, and Meatloaf called him on the phone, and he was like, "Oh my God, it is such an honor to speak with you, Meatloaf." And then he goes, "Hey, Jake, please, you can call me Meat." And
That's a good point to come back
yeah.
on air. That is amazing. Okay, Blue by the Jayhawks. Speaking of local music, let's talk about some local music going on this weekend and beyond, starting with tonight. Pagan Athletes and Stressica, great band names, at Eagles 34 tonight at 8. Tomorrow, Dream of the Wild residency with Chairman Chair and the Chairman. Another great band name. That's at the Caboose tomorrow night, with also Product Scrunchies, Liquid Lunch, and Stuck from Chicago. It's going to be at Mortimer's on Thursday. Friday, Stanley release show and karaoke party featuring Pit Stop at Dayblock Brewing. That's on Friday. Also Friday, Jillian Ray release show with Cassandra Cole at Ice House. We also had Airlands at the Parkway Theater with Dave Manling and Diane. Saturday, Butchers Union's last show featuring Smart Shoppers from Green Bay and Mad Mojo Jet at Palmer's. We also have Murph, Good Morning Midnight, Neapolitan, and Little Lizard at Eagles 34 on that day. Saturday, Jeweler, Tangles, Ginger Bones is at Mortimer's also on Saturday. And then looking ahead, Venus to Mars, Tuesday at 331. And then LPF release show August 5th. That's my next show. So if you think I missed something or you just want to hear me mispronounce your band name on the air, email it to desertislandskfai@gmail.com. I curate the whole list from what you send me. I know you send me stuff on social media, but I'm starting to like even miss stuff in the email now because I'm getting a lot of stuff. So it's not that I'm ignoring you. It's just like sometimes I'll get that message and it's just like, oh, what it's Thursday. I'm on Wednesday.
Shoot.
So I'm trying my best. But speaking of shows, let's talk about the American Scarecrows release. The who's, the what's, the where's. We know the why. We're going to listen to why. But who's playing with you and where's it going to be?
Yeah, so the album release show that we just released our third record at the end of May called Drawing Little Pictures. We're doing the album release at the Amsterdam on Friday, July 29th. So a week from this Friday, we're super stoked. Opening the show is James Eugene Russell and his Enablers. And direct support is a band called Lutheran Heat.
They're a great band.
Yeah, so good. So good. We just ran into Sarah at our mutual practice space last night at City Sound. So it was really, really nice to run into them.
City Sound is a wild place.
It is.
Sometimes I just want to ride a a big wheel through that place. Totally. Like
a few of the dudes in the band, like we still haven't entirely figured out how to get to the bathrooms. Like we need to like write down a map where every time that someone goes to the bathroom, our guitar player Justin goes, "All right, well, it was like nice knowing you." You know.
Yeah, pretty much. Well,
we'll probably never see you again.
Well, I'm in that weird position where like I'm either completely solo in my own little world where I just kind of like stay in my bedroom and then work on stuff and then I come outside, or the other band I'm in is primarily based in Los Angeles, so every time I'm in those practice studios I have been in a different room each time, and I'm always like wondering how people are like, how they get in here, like they look lost, are they stealing stuff? I'm like, because I'm always just like it's a scene in the Matrix of just like, did I get to the right door?
Yes.
This hallway looks the same. This
Right. Always some like little timid knocking. It's like, is this the right? I think this is the right
come out for the
chord.
Lord.
Yes, yeah, totally, totally. But we're no,
Um,
we're really excited to have the album out. We're really excited to
yeah,
play these songs live. I think I can speak on behalf of the band that like the band has never sounded better than it has right now. We enlisted our good friend Justin Charbonneau is going to be playing guitar with us as
nice.
well, and he's just a wizard on the sixth string.
Yeah,
And has really added a lot. Like, it's kind of elevated a lot of these tunes. And Matthew and Alan, the rhythm section, are on fire as always. And we're stoked to play some of these songs live for the first time.
well, let's listen to one now. This is called Diane from Drawing Little Pictures. This is off American Scarecrows' latest record, and Hear It Again, July 29th. You can still hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. It's like I'm always worried. I don't know, especially nowadays. Like I'm always worried I'm leaving a mic on or off.
Totally.
You know, it's like a. It's
well, that's like even showing up. I mean, I wish you could have seen my face, like the amount of panic that went in through my mind when I was like, "Oh my god, why is this not working on my computer?"
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah.
That's why I always get everywhere early. It just I'm just not a very tech savvy dude. So like,
yeah,
I knew that I wasn't going to be able to like course correct or figure this out. And it's like, oh my God, we got to be on in like 5 minutes. So
do the audible. And it's just, well, that is kind of like the fun thing about like radio in general.
I suppose
like, it's just kind of like, because even at like AAA levels, still stuff goes wrong.
Oh, totally, 100%.
I think that's just like the show business in general. Because you know, like even like on shows, there's always something that's going wrong. Nothing is going to plan. Your job is to make it seem like nothing went wrong.
That's kind of a part of the appeal, though. I mean, I think that audiences love when something goes a little awry because it does kind of snap you back into. I mean, shoot, even the last time that I saw Wilco when they were with Trampled by Turtles at Treasure Island, like Tweety stopped the beginning of "I'm Trying to Break Your Heart." He's like, no. Yeah. Like his acoustic was getting all crackly, and he's just like, nope, like absolutely not. We're switching this out. And I mean, it just kind of brought everyone. It's like, oh yeah, like we are watching Wilco live, like that.
And this is like a moment just for us. It's almost like an inside joke that we have.
Oh,
now.
completely.
And I think really good at playing off of that stuff too.
So like, good, master.
So funny. Yeah.
Yes. So funny, and also, you know, obviously, like they play so many shows, so I'm sure that it's not always the case, but like he does always seem ultra present.
Yeah, I've gotten to, because like Wilco, when I was like in my formative years, it was like them and Radiohead. Like those were like those were like the Corinthian columns that I built.
Yeah.
Temple, I was like they were like my safe places. So it's like they became the load bearing things, and then like Coltrane, you know, like once you get into the jazz era, and then there's like the punk era that just kind of makes, because I genuinely try to be a fan of everything, but like I think I've seen Wilco, gosh, I might have seen Wilco more than any other band I've seen. Between like, and I was like one of those, like, because I'm also a Simpsons nerd, like one of those nerds that like watches episodes on with commentary because it's better. It's so much better. But like I would like anytime he would do anything like a solo project or like, you know, like the album leaf, like anything associated with that band. If they were coming anywhere near Philadelphia, like I would be going to like, you know, Lancaster or like Reading, New York. You know, what, like just anything that came near it, Jersey. And I've seen his stage banter evolve, and like I have never once seen him deliver a canned line.
Right.
Like other than like the usual like, hi, we're Wilco, and you know, like we tune because we care, or you know, like stuff that everyone says to like break the tension. I think you're right. I think he stays just kind of like present, and he's like kind of focusing on the song, and then whatever happens happens. Like he doesn't seem, because it always kind of seems like his best stuff comes out of the, when he's kind of like shuffling in his shoes and just like, all right,
Agreed.
talk off a one-liner, and then that's like he doesn't seem like he's rehearsed it in a mirror. It
No,
always kind of
totally.
comes out of him.
That it does. Like I think that he has found his voice live, and also they are so good. I've actually, tried to like adopt some of this where it's just like, you don't, first off, they're always so good at like, they always open with unconventional openers. I feel like
Yeah.
live versus like, I would never have expected. It's like
Yes.
you're opening with One Sunday Morning. Like that song is 13 minutes long and it's a
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
sleepy and it's one of my favorites, but it's just they're not just like coming out of the gates with like I'm a Wheel or something like that. But
And I think they need to at this point.
Yes,
because like
I agree.
they kind of like they've kind of gone through that looking glass where it's just
Yes.
like, and I would argue like Jason Isbell is there now, where it's just like
totally.
they were like these artists where it's just like, oh, this is the next, like, and I hate, like, I'm not hate using this term because it's like stupid, but like the next Mount Rushmore artist.
No,
like
yeah.
Like it's like it reminded me of like when Penn and Teller were talking about like working with some of their favorite artists, and like they read an interview with like one of their favorite musicians, and it's just like, so what was it like to work with like these King Crimson cats and like the people who work with Bowie?
Yes.
And he was just like, I'd imagine it was a lot like working with Penn and Teller, and like in his brain, he could not compute of just like, because in his mind, he's an audience member. He's a fan. He's not the one, like, so it's just like, what's it like to work with me? You're the entertainer. Like, you're Pagliacci. I don't want to know what it's like working with me. I know it. Like, I have to deal with me. Like, I can't be your thing.
Right.
Right. So, like, I think Wilco was that, where it's just like, I'm not your, but now I think they're kind of accepting that, like, they're responsible for a lot of stuff. So you kind of have
they are, and like they are like entering into that like these are the legends that will be born, that our generation will have been like looking up to forever. And then that that my nieces will maybe start to get when in their late 20s, when they're kind of like off of their own stuff, and then it's like, oh wait, maybe there was some cool stuff in the aughts.
You're gonna see them like at stadium shows, and it's like seeing Wilco with my dad,
totally.
Like, but it's just like, that's what the Stones are doing, and it's just,
absolutely.
Like, if you're lucky enough, like that's what you get to do.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I like that they go there, because like it shows that they're not done.
Totally.
Because I get to see a lot of people's sets, and it is interesting how you get to see not really how the sausage is made, but like you can kind of tell that some artists treat their live show like a theatrical production, and not saying where it's like there's props, but it's just like, no, there's like, if you pay attention to the set list, there's almost like a narrative arc, and they like they practice their transitions, and like they like it is the same show every time, because it's like a statement. And I think in my younger days, I was just like, man, bag that, dude. You got to be authentic till you die.
No, right.
It's just like, but now that I've worked like almost, 2 decades in this industry, it's like it's like, oh, no one's an island. People get babysitters for this stuff.
And it is still show business. Like, it is show business, like to a certain point. Right. Right.
And it's just like, well, wait a minute, the show is the product. And I started to get why artists were just like, hey, keep your phones in. Like, I get as an audience member, like, you might be annoyed by that, but I gotta say, like, the shows are better.
I agree.
Like,
I could not agree
way better. Like,
more.
would I be as like anal about it as like a Maynard James Keenan, where like he
Sure.
just like chastises people in the audience? No, but like I'm not going to be salty when an artist is just like, hey, you got to put the phone in the pouch.
No, yeah. I mean, when
Yeah.
the first time that I saw Jack White, we put the phones in the pouch, and the show was significantly better
Yeah.
because of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone was present. Everyone was forced to be present, and so we were, and we really enjoyed the show. Yeah, I love it. I love the no phones thing.
I prefer the phone pouch to checking your phone like it's a weapon.
No, okay, yeah, totally.
You know,
right.
I prefer because I do like the fact, because we do live, unfortunately, in an era where people have toxic employers that will contact you at will, or you know, emergencies, you know, family health emergencies, or car accidents. Like, I do like the idea of being able to look at your phone and be like, oh my God, I got to go to code check and get this unlocked.
Yeah, exactly. Like having a designated space for it. No, that is the way to go. That's how the Jack White show was. It was pouches. I just didn't even bring mine in. I was like with a lot of my family, so I was like, okay, I think we can be kind of safe here. But
the latest one I worked was Pussifer, and they didn't do the pouch, and they didn't check the phones. They just had a policy where it's just like, if you use it, you're gonna get kicked out. And I get it. I get it, but like, in my opinion, with that, what you're really doing is just putting venue staff into like harm's way.
100%.
And they were kind of funny about it. Like this tour was kind of like alien themed, and like their pre-show message was just like, anyone who uses their phones will be ground into spam. So like they had like a dude, like they had like a planted dude dressed up like one of their costumes, like film, and he's like, check me out, you know, and then like the aliens get him, they're like spam. Like, so they did have fun with it. But I don't know if if you're gonna kick people out, just give them a phone pouch, man.
No, exactly. Like, I mean, it just adds
like $80 to get in.
It adds a level of confusion to the logistics of the whole operation. That's like, hey, can we just it's already kind of confusing when there's thousands of people in the same place. Can we just like eliminate any unnecessary confusion?
Right. And I guess I'm more about like, well, let's widen the tent.
Sure.
Rather than make it and it's hard because a lot of art is niche, where it's almost like better if you feel like you're part of this secret little club. I get that.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
Wait, this is something I found. This is something I discovered, and wait, they like it too. So like, I get there are bands that kind of thrive in that, where it's just like it's almost like an ancient temple. Like, it's far away for a reason, and you get there and it makes it all the more worth it.
100%.
That being said, if you are an artist that knows your like niche is niche, and people have made the journey, the pilgrimage to come see you, why would you reprimand that? Unless someone is being like dangerous in the audience. But like,
of course,
honestly, like as someone who works at a lot of venues, like, we don't like kicking people out.
Of course not.
Like we're not cops on a power trip.
No.
We are theater kids who like are just like, we want the show to go on just as much as everyone else.
Amen.
So it's like, when that happens, like, it's just like, when people like, don't think we like doing this. We hate it. It's dangerous. Sometimes people have to like get a little rough when it happens, because people throw punches, and then it's just like, well, now this is happening, you know? So it's just like, I'm more of like but also like, you're interrupting the show for everyone else when you have to like go in with the flashlights and like yank someone out like it's an alien abduction.
Yes.
You know, like, that is distracting for other people in the show, and I'm more team pouch than anything else.
Yep, I'm totally with you. As little distractions, because like we are here as a community, and like whatever we can do to, you know, ensure everyone else paid the same amount that you paid to get to you know, get admitted to this show. So like, let's all let's all celebrate that, you know?
Right, right.
Yeah,
And it's just because like I don't know. I've seen it happen too many times where like
of
someone gets
course.
kicked out in the first song, and
Yeah,
it's just like it's just like one of those things where it's just like please don't make me do my job. This is
right.
gonna suck. Please don't. And it's I don't know. Stand by. We're about to go back on the air here. Dave Mailing. That was off of Beach Boy, and he's got new material. What Dave Mailing's always got new material. I feel like every time I look away from Dave Mailing, he has like 3 more albums on his Bandcamp page. But local artist Dave Mailing. We also have Stuck, Jillian Ray, who is releasing a record, a single this weekend at Ice House with Cassandra Cole. And then New American Scarecrows. If you're just tuning in, this is Desert Islands, the show where I make mixtapes based on my guests' 10 records they bring to a desert island. Today I'm making one for American Scarecrows, who have a new album coming out. Can we talk about the production of this record? Because like how did this go down? Was this one of those, because you have a few records out, your band's been around for a while. Was this something you were sitting on and then COVID happened? Or was this something that's just like something catalyst and it's just like, no, we got to do it, we got some songs,
No, there was a lot of sitting. There was a lot of
really?
sitting. Yeah. So, you know, Scarecrows had gone on a maybe like 2 or 3 year hiatus.
Right.
And I was always like writing during the time during that time and like demoing a bunch of stuff. And then when we kind of got back together and I think was like, you know, maybe end of, or, you know, like beginning of like maybe the fall of 2019, I think. Yeah. You know, we started rehearsing, you know, we wanted to do a handful of shows and we knew that we wanted to do another record. And then like we had all of these big plans for 2020, just like everybody else did. But I mean, it was like to us, it was like, okay, this is going to be like Scarecrow's comeback year here. And then everything happened. And so then once all the show, you know, once shows weren't happening anymore, we were like, well, let's just throw ourselves into recording as well as we can. And so, I mean, it took forever to record because we were following CDC guidelines and we were quarantining when we were supposed to and wearing masks in the studio. And then
the same thing. I tracked 2 records masked the entire time.
Right. And I mean, which was a pain, but also we were we were all happy to just be working on anything at the time.
I was in that boat of just like, I'm just grateful we're doing anything.
Oh, totally. And like, you know, kind of staying distance. Luckily, you know, where we tracked drums and bass, like it's a pretty big studio. And so we were able to kind of stay distance from each other. But yeah, I mean, there were some early demos of some songs that I'm not very proficient with technology. Like all of my demos sound really crappy. But also they're demos. They're not supposed to sound great, I guess, like until I can kind of bring things to the band and then we all kind of start putting everyone's flavor on it and everyone kind of shaping things. But yeah, it took forever to record, a lot of breaks, but we're really, really proud of how it turned out and just feels good to finally have it out. I mean, putting that, as you know, I mean, even just putting together an album release show and like a record release and getting all of your, you know, ducks in a row. I mean, it's a lot of work, but we're on the home stretch here. We're really looking forward to the show for sure.
I've always liked to say, you know, labor is a love, or still labor.
Totally, 100%. There were some difficult moments. I mean, even for me personally, this was easily the hardest record I've made. Even though like things don't sound necessarily like, you know, I'm not like a super shreddy guitar player or anything like that, you know, but you know, it's not a sport, but there are little intricacies that just took a long time to get right. But thankfully we weren't on any kind of deadline and we had nothing but free time to do it, you know, while it's like, well, what else? We're not playing shows. No one knows that this album is coming, so we can kind of take our time with it. Yeah.
Well, it was worth it. It sounds great. And thank you for sharing it. Amsterdam, July 29th. Did I remember that correctly?
That's correct. Yes.
Perfect. I wanted to reiterate that. If you're just tuning in here on Desert Islands, I'm speaking with Seth from American Scarecrows. This mixtape is for American Scarecrows, based off the 10 records they would bring to a desert island. And up next, we're going to have more picks from the desert island list, as well as a few local groups that you might enjoy. But first, we're going to have this. I did the thing again, and I let the underwriting carts pile up, so we're just going to have to...
I don't know what that means.
These play. Well, it's so there's these things I have to play.
Yes.
That like either they're underwriting or station messages or like community news, just because like we are public radio, so like we do have a few news carts we got to play.
Of course.
And they're on this little robot thing that tells me when to play them. And unlike automated radio, this is like a hybrid thing of like the part in Wayne's World where like he's like putting like the things like
yes. Yes.
Yeah. It's like right. That's kind of like what I'm doing, because like back in those days, like they were just carts on 8-track tapes that you just put in and just be like, this message. So like now it's just digital. It's just like a digital version of a button I need to press, but it's just like that's totally. I still go back to that scene just because like at first when I first saw it, I was just like, oh man, the music industry is like so dumb. Like I'm never gonna be like that. But then like I'm starting to see it from like Harry Shearer's perspective of just like it's just like he's just like making stuff up just so like there's no dead air and trying to ask them questions so like people can like listen to something while he's doing that. And it's like it's so true, but like I am listening though. That's the difference. I'm not. I am listening to people when I do this. But like I don't know. I love those inside baseball moments.
Sure. Yes. Totally.
Where it's just like I think we got one more. This is a long one. Whoops. Don't know what happened there.
Oh, nice. Some Nick Costa?
Yeah, I wanted to get some Nick Costa in here.
Love.
Just because it's Nick Costa. Who doesn't like 100%. Nick Costa? Also, this record's great. Like I think he knocked it out of the park, and he has been for a while. You know?
He has. I think that this is his most like realized album that I've heard from him yet, though. Like I've been here for it. I've always really respected Nick, and I think he's always written great songs. But I also like I don't know, like I don't know Nick super well, but we're friendly with each other, and following him online and like him being so open about all of the things that he listens to, I think that like I really think that like I heard like all of the things that he loves culminating into this album, and like it's a fantastic record.
It really is. Yeah, it's like and he's always like really easy to talk to as well.
Totally,
which, like, makes it just fun.
Yes,
but like I don't know. I have also been kind of like watching his journey too, and like I've always thought he's been a great songwriter. I've ran into that thing where it's just like I thought I wrote a good hook, and then I realized it was a Nick Costa song.
No, totally. That's what I mean. Even going back to the Person and the People record, what's the
Stage Banter World Champions?
Totally.
I
like on point.
Yeah, always.
Yeah, there were always, those records have like a handful of just like perfect tunes on there.
Yeah.
I'm now that I'm on the spot, I'm blanking on there's one of their songs or one of their albums that like the first song has this really long guitar solo at the end.
Yeah.
It's just like I jam it all the time. Like it's great.
I remember playing because I think that's like the thing for me is it's like I remember shows more than anything else.
Sure.
And just like playing so many shows with like unplanned things where it's like we end up on the same bill. Where it's just like,
Right.
how you're playing this thing? Like those like weirdo festival things out of towns. Like we would end up
Yes.
on so many of those things. And I feel like that's kind of where like I got to know those guys of just like the hang.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, and I
which is
mean, good. I mean, I really only know Nick and I know Andy Sanford, and like
yeah, yeah,
they are two great hangs.
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah, for
like,
sure. Very, very funny
uh,
dudes.
but I brought in Nick because I thought it was like, well, one, we both mutually know Nick, but also like what segs into Fountains of Wayne
Hey,
naturally.
yo,
And
totally.
like I like because Fountains of Wayne are like one of those bands like Third Eye Blind where it's just like everyone knows the hit, so they don't
Yep.
give the other records credit.
Yes.
But when you dig, like
Oh,
they're
like
great writers. They're great writers.
Third Eye Blind self-titled is a 10 out of 10 album.
Yeah.
Like, though, I mean, I skip the singles now just because like I've heard them too much, and it's all of the B-sides like that are just unbelievable. Fountains of Wayne, criminally underrated band. I'm happy that they got their due with Stacy's mom. I really am. Like, I'm glad that Schlesinger and got his money that he, deserved from that. But I mean, good Lord. I mean, there is a plethora of just perfect song, like song architecture, songwriting, sometimes humorous, sometimes, I don't know, not scared to use humor, which is always like riding a weird line. Sometimes people can do it, sometimes people can't.
And I think that's why Sparks never erupted out of their
right.
Because
that's a great point.
Just straight up funny. Like they are, but on purpose. And like,
yes,
that throws people.
Yes, it does. And I mean, because it's hard. I mean, it's like, I don't know. Randy Newman does the same thing. John Prine did the same thing where like there are going to be there's going to be humorous moments. Like you will laugh and cry in the same album if you kind of keep your heart open.
Yeah. It's like I will say like the stuff I dug into Randy Newman was like his like passionate indictments against stuff.
Yes.
And that's kind of where I started. So it's just like my like intro to him was just like, oh whoa, this cat's like almost like a Hemingway. Like you really got to digest the stuff he's putting out there.
Well, you do and realize that they are narratives. That's like the big thing, because he does a lot of times, which he's spoken openly about. Like he's like, I've went too far sometimes, where it's like I don't think that people understood that. Like, no, like I'm like the song Rednecks. I'm making this is a social commentary on everything that is wrong with Southern culture. But then what he was not expecting were rednecks in the South holding this up as an anthem, and like he feels like totally ashamed of that. And I mean, but like, man, I mean, his pointed commentary on this on this country, I think has always struck me so well, where it's like there is this dichotomy between it's like I love it and I hate it here all at the same time. It's like you opening up the set with New York I Love You. Like I'm with you. I understand completely. I understand the subtweet completely, and it's just like like I don't know. I get it.
I think that is why when I first moved out to the Twin Cities, I think I took a long time for people to warm up to me. Because I'm the kind of person when people say like, oh, how you doing? I'm just going to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I'm right. Having a rough one today.
Sometimes the answer is like, I'm still here. Oh, it's just like, I don't want your pity. You asked the question. Let's move on.
100%. Which is very Philly. Yeah.
Yeah, but another thing I do is openly criticize things that I think are completely full of nonsense. And but I think when I first moved here, people thought I was doing, they're like, oh, who are you? You're the outsiders. It's like, no, like if I didn't care, I wouldn't say anything at all. And I would take pleasure in your demise.
Yeah.
This is a call in, it's not a call out. It's because I know this place can be better. And I want it to, because I'm invested in it. I'm
Yes.
part of this place, and you're
100%.
part of it. We're part of it, and I want all of y'all to stick around. And
Yep.
sometimes sticking around comes like from the hard truths of just like, hey,
Yep.
we're messing this up,
Completely.
messing this up. And
Especially, yeah.
I would make a lot of enemies doing that because they're just like, well, who are you? It's just like your friend, actually.
No, right. Your community member. Like, I don't know,
I'm like
like
your like,
a,
yeah,
another human being that's also made out of stardust. Like, I don't know.
yeah, yeah,
Like, I mean, especially during a time where it's like there, like a lot of lip service gets paid, and then it's like, oh, okay, and then it's like Ryan Adams is playing at the State
yeah.
Theater, and I'm just like,
That
are
was
are
only a matter of
are
time.
but I mean, it still surprised me. Like, I was a little shocked when I got the email, and it's just a classic case of like, okay, like, you guys are saying a lot here. Like, you are putting profits
Yeah.
before morals, and
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
it's just
I'm definitely feeling that right now, especially considering
yeah,
recent bookings. But also like
100%.
another thing that I find really funny is like the reaction is always like to attack like the most vulnerable people, where it's just like
Totally.
don't hate on the employees who can't make ends meet without this job.
Well, absolutely.
Cut the head off.
Absolutely.
And I
Yep.
see a lot of that going, like a lot of infighting in this
Yes.
community where I'm just like, stop it,
I
stop
know.
it. And also like like we can hear everything you're saying about each other. Just stop it. Like,
Right.
and in reality, like it's your common enemy is the big businesses pulling the strings.
100%.
Like, and yeah, I don't know.
It's
But
tough.
we're about to come back
Yep.
after the Shackletons. Speaking of local music, they're doing great. They just released a great record. We also had Fountains of Wayne in that set. Hackensack, Welcome Interstate Managers, and Do Better Man from Nick Costa. And yeah, if you were missing the online conversation, Fountains of Wayne, underrated writers.
Extremely.
You should check them out. So if you're just tuning in, this is Desert Islands, the show where I make mixtapes based on my guests' 10 records they would bring to a desert island. Today I made one for American Scarecrows, and I've been hanging out with Seth for the last hour. Unfortunately, though, we have about like 8 minutes to Democracy Now. And I want to make sure make sure we get that transition as smooth as possible. So we heard a cut from the new record. If listeners like what they heard, where can they hear it again?
So, if I'm not mistaken, it should be on all streaming platforms. We also have a Bandcamp for those people that like to support local music. You can buy the album there, and then yeah, just come out to some shows. Look us up online.
Yeah.
We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. And we have a handful of great shows. Like, if anyone isn't able to make it to the record release on the 29th at the Amsterdam, there's going to be more shows in the late summer and fall. Like, plenty of opportunities to come see us live. And so, and we'd love to see everyone, because the independent music needs everyone's help as much as ever right now. And I don't know, we're really I don't know, grateful to have the album out, and we're really looking forward to making some friends and seeing some people this summer.
Well, I'm happy you're back. It's a great sounding record, and the show, Amsterdam, July 29th. Check that out. But also, more shows are on the way in 2022. So up next, we got some Jake Simmons and the Little Ghosts out of Michigan. We have some Volk out of Tennessee, and we'll have some Indigo Girls later. But let's start things off with Volk. Next week, I got Night Jobs coming on the show. Seth, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I don't know if we'll get another talk break, so I just want to say thanks, because this was
all
really
good.
fun.
This was so much fun, Doc. Thank you so much for having me. It really was my pleasure.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for being here, and check out that record. Here's Volk on KFAI. Yeah, that's the thing. I always like lose track of time, and then it
Yeah.
becomes this thing where I'm just like, oh, we gotta. Do I have?
All
I got
good.
okay.
I think
But
I think you handled it seamlessly. I think this is very good.
yeah, no, I really appreciate you coming on the show. It's been great chatting with you. But like, yeah,
Yeah.
I think what's weird right now is I think a lot of the problems this scene is facing is carte blanche problems with the industry, just
Sure.
like nationwide, worldwide.
Yes.
There are special flavors that I feel like I wish we did a better job of, if we're not going to hold ourselves accountable to, at least own up to.
Yeah,
And
totally.
that's the thing I think I get in trouble for criticizing, because I'm just like, all right, like at least on the East Coast, like we kind of own up to the fact that we can be rude sometimes.
Yes.
You know,
Right.
where it's like, and it's just like, yeah, we get it. So what? What's your point? You know, it's just
Well,
like the thing
or
that I
even
don't like is like when harm is being done, there's like a thing where it's just like, yeah, but that wasn't really that bad. I'm just like, well, yeah, it was. You don't get to say it wasn't.
Right.
And I think as a community, as a music scene, we haven't been great at that.
Right. We've had a couple little moments where like the troops got fired up and made some things happen.
Yes.
You know, which was, you know, which I mean, like I always do look at locally. I don't know. I sent an email to the Hennepin Theater Trust about Ryan Adams. No one's going to read it. I'm not going to get that show canceled. But at least I can.
Yeah.
At least I can. I don't know, and it's not like an empty gesture either. It's like, it's not like, okay, well, there, my work is done. I sent an email, but at least trying to engage with like, I don't think that this is right, and so I'm going to do that. But like within our local community, which we are like a part of this, we do have bigger voices, and we do have, I don't know, like you can, even if it's like something as simple of like who you're gonna share a bill with, or like. Right. I don't know. There are steps that you can take to keep things morally sound and keep the community as safe as possible, and like allow this to be a safe space for everyone.
And that's the thing. Like I think what people don't realize about life in general is it's not going to stop.
Right. It's not going to go away.
Yeah, and I think people are expecting of just like, all right, let's shut it all down. And it's just like, well, I understand the sentiment, but what are you going to do when the more powerful people don't stop? Because I don't have an answer for that. And I'm kind of like struggling in a similar boat with that right now, of just like, okay, yes, down for the cause, but also if you knew what was going on behind the scenes, you might have a little bit more empathy for the situation, because a lot of times a chess game is being played by people with more power, money, and influence than you.
Right.
And it's like, it's always more complicated than that. But like, I want to give people the benefit of the doubt. And it's hard because like, I've been just as guilty of being reactionary as everyone else. I mean, like, you know, like I've definitely bullied the mayor a few times.
Yeah, right.
But that's another thing where it's just like, I was only doing that because I thought, you know, it's kind of like what you said. Like I write congressmen. I know they don't read it. I know it doesn't matter. Like I do that stuff too. But it's just like, that's bare minimum stuff.
It is bare minimum, but it also just feels like a civic duty, you know.
Right.
And right.
And now it just kind of feels like it's hard, because I feel like masks are coming off.
Right.
And I think good people at the bottom are being taken advantage of.
Yeah.
And there are, you know, because like there are people who find the wholesome crusader thing like a useful brand, and they will hire those folks as mouthpieces and underlings, when secretly, like, there's something, you know, and it's discouraging, because it's just like, that's kind of like America at this point. Like, it's turtles all the way down.
100%.
Like,
No, you said it.
And it's like, so on one hand, it's just like, yeah, I want to do something, but what? Like we're bringing a knife to a drone fight.
Right. I mean, that's kind of like the funny. I mean, because also like there's only so many hours in the day. I can't write an email every time that I can't. I don't know. It's like every single time you see a problem, you're not going to be able to necessarily do that. Like, I feel very strongly about the Ryan Adams thing because this is my community.
Yes.
I am a part of this world. I've been playing in Minneapolis for 20 years. And so like I do feel a little bit more of a fire where it's like, here is something that I understand what's going on behind the stage. So I feel I feel like I feel a little bit more comfortable talking about that. Whereas like sometimes I get a little muddied up politically, not with my affiliations, but as far as like, what does it actually take to get a bill passed? I don't know all of the intricacies there.
And I think the game is changing. That's the thing that I don't think we are grasping is like, I think a lot of us are playing with an outdated playbook.
Yeah, you might be right.
We're watching these institutions take their masks off and go like, oh, you figured out that we didn't care the entire time? Well, we're just gonna keep doing it. And it's just like, it's so hard not to feel hopeless when you're like, wait, what? They're like, oh yeah, we know.
Oh yeah, we've always known.
We've always known.
Yeah.
It's the price of doing business, and it's just like,
totally.
Like, what do you do against that indifference?
I know.
Like, what do you do?
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard to not just get swallowed up into the void and just be like, it's all screwed. We're out. But also I realize too that that's just kind of like lazy thinking, and it's just like, it's okay to feel like the despair, and then also it's like, okay, like maybe back to the drawing board and like let's get creative and I don't know, still have a voice, And
I think growing up watching Star Wars,
the opinions
here we go.
And are not necessarily those
like stuff like that, where it's just like, I'm wondering if people think it's just like, oh yeah, we all rally to do the thing and it's over. When in reality, it's like a constant vigilance.
Yes. Oh, like right. It's not mission accomplished. Hey, that's all good.
Yeah. Like, like we did it.
And right.
And that's where I think the masking is dangerous, the metaphorical masking, because like when you're just trying to like make a point that's convenient, of just like, it's just like, okay, like it just eventually something needs to be an authentic gesture, right?
Yes, right.
And I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I get caught up in the world that like I don't know. I got extremely humbled this year because I sashayed my way into activism like everyone else and tried to do their part, and then I started getting my hands dirty, and then I started like working with organizations, and then you start seeing how the sausage is made,
right?
And then you start seeing how good-hearted, sincere people can get simply just used by organizations who like the PR.
Totally.
And then it's like that Maria Bamford thing where like in her TV show where she's like, oh, I'm doing these commercials. And then it's just like, oh my God, I'm doing commercials for slave labor. And like, like, it's like
100%. 100%.
Like most of the time when this stuff happens, it is either people like going in with good intentions unaware.
Yep.
And it's like, I'm trying to have more patience with like, cause there's a lot of reactionary anger, and like I'm feeling that anger. I'm feeling the indignation. I'm not telling people to not, cause like you said earlier, it's just like, I hate this place, but I also love it.
Yeah. Right.
But at the same time, like fire can cook your dinner, but can also burn your house down.
Yeah, exactly.
And once the house is burnt down, you might not like who's going to be building stuff out of the ashes.
Yeah, right. No, that's a great.
It's kind of like, all right, I don't know, just kind of understand like a Doctor Who monologue of something of just like, okay, what are you going to do about the next troublemakers?
No,
like,
right. And sometimes like, right, especially like you were talking about earlier, like with the infighting, it's like, yeah, I get ultra critical of the Democratic Party because they're my party. And so like, but at the same time, when there's so much infighting, then it's like, because we are a series of coalitions that are trying to work together. And like sometimes there's going to be organizations where it's just like, yes, people are being ultra critical of these things. And also I'm not behind the curtain. Like, I don't know exactly why certain organizations are making, because there's going to be constantly difficult calls and and like different sides of walls that you need to like fall on in order to like keep this nonprofit alive, where it's like there is like finances do matter for the cause, and so like that's where it gets like a little
murky, and
it can be
and I think it's harder to digest because we were always being lied to, but now it's like, because of the internet, it's kind of impossible to ignore.
Oh, totally. And I mean, Trump kicked that door down. I mean, it's just about it's like, oh, I'm gonna lie all the time. Everyone's gonna know that I'm lying all the time, and my base is not going to care about it at all, and it's gonna drive the Democrats crazy. And it's like, yeah, I mean, right.
Well, I think eventually, I guess where I'm at as like someone who is in the middle of their life, eventually we got to do something more than just troll our enemies.
Totally.
So like I'm not saying this because it's just like I feel like I'm on the losing side, or like I almost feel like an ent at this point. Like, side, I'm not on anybody's side. Not mine.
Sure.
At this point, but like there does come a point where it's just like, okay, you're angry, I get it, you want to get something done, but nothing is getting done.
Right.
Like at this point, we live in this weird society where like one party stands to critique society, and then the other party stands to critique the critics. And it's just like pointless.
Yeah.
Like one party is like fundamentally pointless without the existence of the other.
Sure.
Like it's like totally. One party is like just turn into a foil. That's it. They have no plan. Nothing. And then the other party just sits there and does nothing and just kind of critiques and goes like, hey, we got to be better. And then that party goes like, all right, be better. It's like this weird thing, and it's just like, okay. It's like, at what point do we realize that it is their job to get us infighting, so the status quo doesn't go away?
Yeah, for sure.
It's just like, so it's like, but at the same time, people are going too far now.
Right.
And I wish people weren't like both sidesing the issue where it's like, hey, what do you do? It's like, no, hate crimes are happening.
No, 100%.
Like stuff is not where it was, and it's like difficult. So at this point, I'm just trying to like focus on empathy of like the common person, and then focus my anger at institutions.
Yes.
Because like some of the time, like when you're like yelling at an institution, you're yelling at an intern answering emails.
Right. Yeah.
Like it's just like we gotta, like as we were saying earlier, like I'm feeling the indignation. I get that, but like we're just burning down the house at this point.
Right. Right.
Like not like one party's followers is just, their whole agenda is to piss off their enemies.
Right.
And the other party is like in delusion that that's not what's happening.
Totally.
Like they're like, no, it's the grand old compromise. It's like that didn't exist in your era.
No, right.
That
100%.
that was always an illusion, but now it's like it's just yeah. So it's like it's hard not to feel helpless because you're like it's weird. Like I feel like I'm a magician who knows the trick.
Sure.
And I'm just like, that can't possibly work. And then you watch it and you're like, that crushed?
No, right. That worked.
Worked?
I know.
So like and I see like all the things that are being done to like just keep it divided and angry, and I'm just like, they think we're stupid. You think that's gonna work? And then you turn around and it's like working really well.
Oh no, it is working. Right. I know.
Like
I think you're right. I think that keeping empathy alive, and it's like keeping empathy alive, and also realizing that it's like, no, actually, like I'm not interested in hearing both sides of every issue, because it's like if people are dead wrong, they're dead wrong, and like that's
are not both sides issues. Some issues are literally life and death.
100%, literally
life.
So yeah,
but also this is way above our pay grade.
100%. I just write songs, so
yeah. I'm gonna stay in my lane. But it was lovely talking to you. I'm gonna end the broadcast here.
Okay.
And let's keep talking. Hope to run into you sooner than later.
Absolutely.
And yeah, this was great. This is a great afternoon.
Thank you so much for having me, Doc. I had a blast.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, likewise. And hope to see you soon.
Yeah, sounds good.
Have a